Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Keith Green, and I welcome you all to our April Q. Today, our topic for discussion for our Q is professionalism and ethics under the Thunderdome, in the Thunderdome, excuse me. And today we have the pleasure of having Jay Treller and Pat Circadakis with us, as well as Alan, pronounce your last name for me. Nielsen from the Triangle Multiple Listing Service. And they're going to be talking to us about various topics as it relates to what's going on, professional standards and rules as it relates to the TMLS, as well as rules and standards as it relates to us being realtors working out in the field. And we're going to be speaking also about some of the experiences that we have out there while we're out there practicing real estate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start with Alan. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so Alan Nielsen with Triangle MLS, and I've been with Triangle for 13 or 14 years now. So I have been around in that organization and know a good deal. My role now is VP of MLS Systems, so my responsibility pertains to Paragon, our vendor that we have for Paragon, and the other services that you guys use on a daily basis. And so that's what I'm doing. And thank you for inviting me to this. I look forward to it.
All right, thank you for being here. Pat, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Pat Circadakis with Coldwell Banker HPW. I'm a working everyday realtor in the field.
And Jay, would you introduce yourself, please?
Jay Kreller with Inhabit Real Estate, and also a boots on the ground realtor with about, 650 or so closed transaction sides. So I kind of feel like I've seen it all in the field.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for attending, and thank you guys for introducing yourselves. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to go ahead and open up with Alan. Alan from TMLS. Alan, you want to go ahead and share with us what you are going to share, sir?
Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the screen or the presentation is really more for me to remember what I have to speak about here. So
we're not able to see your screen. Cub, did you share it yet? But if not, did you share it, Alan?
Yeah, it's sharing now.
I can see it.
Okay, well, I can't. No problem. As long as you guys can see it on we can't see it on our end, but we will work that out. Go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So, well, like I said, thank you for inviting me here. This is a very important topic, and from an MLS point of view, in addition to the quality of the data that we have, which is one of our top objectives, then of course agent safety and the safety of your clients is also very important things that we look for. So what I wanted to go through here is just a few things that from our point of view are important, and all of these are done or put in place for the sake of primarily you as our subscribers. So just want to start with listing information. Like I said, that's our currency. That's why that's our most valuable asset, is the data. So what we are looking for and what we believe are best for the network of realtors that we are in Triangle, and I think we're about 14,000 subscribers right now, is of course the accurate information and complete information. So some of the things that we often get calls about from agents is on square footage, for example, and obviously in any given transaction here in our area, square footage is absolutely key. There are some other areas, for example, as you may know, we have entered into a data share agreement with Longleaf Pine. Well, in Longleaf Pine, they do ranges for square footage. We don't. We actually display the number. And for as you probably know, the Real Estate Commission have pretty strict rules about or guidelines at least about how square footage should be obtained. Can't take it from public records. We do see that probably a little too frequently, that the remark says square footage pulled from public records. Can't do that. It has to be professionally measured for each transaction. So square footage is a big one. Another one we get a lot of comments about, and that is also very valuable information, but it's something that we do not require from an MLS point of view, is the floor for each of the rooms. It's things like that where we can see some agents, they ignore those type fields. They just pass right through them and never enter information. And I think as a best practice, at least entering the room floor on the listing is something that we are looking for, and even looking to see if we can make required at some point in near future. And then, of course, good pictures. We don't violate, send any violations out on bad photos. If we did, we might not have to charge subscription fees. There are some really bad ones out there. I'm sure none of them are from OCHR agents. I'm sure, but it's one of those things. Agents should take the time and produce some good pictures. It helps the buyer side tremendously, obviously, and also something like floor plans. If it's possible, upload a floor plan. Again, not a requirement currently, but even with desktop appraisals that are coming out, floor plans becomes more and more important. And then obviously a big thing here is getting the listing in on time. There's a great concern about off-market listings or off MLS listings. So when you take a listing agreement, make sure you get it in the MLS on time, so it's available for wide syndication and obviously cooperation with other agents. So they are kind of the key things we have in terms of listing data. Then I want to move into showings because that's an area that is very important, and certainly in the crazy market we have had for quite a while now. Best practices around showings are very important. So as a listing agent, help other agents to make it clear how showing agents should act when they get to the property. So provide clear showing instructions. Also provide clear driving directions on the listing. Sometimes we see agents just refer to GPS. That's not acceptable. Please provide clear driving directions from the nearest main road. And then a feature that is somewhat new, when you set up showing instructions in showing time, we have a feature called secure access. And it's a really good idea to use this feature. And what this feature will do is that it will actually hold the lockbox information until I think it's 15 minutes before the showing begins. So that means agents won't have it way beforehand, which will hopefully limit the opportunity for anybody to access the listing too soon. So that's a very good feature. It's a feature that is available through showing time. Also in showing time, and especially because of this crazy market we have had, is the ability to control the number of overlapping showings. I'm sure you all saw the video of that that made the news with agents just flooding this home. So again, in showing time, use the ability or the feature where you can limit the number of overlapping showings if you're accepting them to begin with. And the last feature as a listing agent you can use to kind of for security purposes is access by appointment. It's somewhat similar to the secure access feature I just talked about. This one, though, is tied to SentryLock. So if you are an electronic lockbox user, there is an integration between showing time and SentryLock that will actually completely kind of tie the lockbox access to the showing appointment. So again, nobody can access the home until I think it's within 15 minutes of the actual appointment. So that's another security feature. And again, as a listing agent, especially if you're using the electronic lockbox, this is a feature you should look into. So that's kind of on the listing agent side, what they can do. And then as the showing agent, so this is where we unfortunately have not the most, but we have quite a few of the violations that we issue from the MLS comes in on this part here. So obviously follow showing instructions. If it tells you to take off the shoes before you enter the home, that's what you have to do. Also, and some of these are very obvious, but unfortunately, some agents seem to still get confused about it. You can only show a home within the scheduled time slot that you have. This is one of the kind of stricter rules we have. If you enter a home outside of your time slot or scheduled time slot, then it's basically trespassing. And there's a significant fine involved in that. What is interesting, when these are reported, rarely is it the listing agent that wants to report this. It's the homeowner, it's the seller that basically demands that their listing agent report it because they're absolutely. So absolutely make sure that you only access the home during your allotted appointment there. Also, make sure the home is secure when you leave it. We do get some calls where agents either do not lock the door or even though this is not a security thing, but same thing, you know, all the lights are left on and all those things, right? So just be aware of those things, do the courteous thing. I do want to go back to the show the home within your scheduled time slot. The question we typically get is, what if I show up 5 minutes before my allotted showing appointment? Can I go in? And the answer is no. It will still be considered trespassing if it is reported. So if you are at a property early, call CSS or showing time and see if you can access the home early. To do those courteous things, then typically everything will be fine. Then another one, also relating mostly to the crazy market we're in, is the key. So when you are showing the home and you're on your way out and the other agents are standing waiting to go in, we do hear about agents just handing the key to the next agent. You can't really do that. Some agents are not doing enough checks to see if is it actually an agent that is standing there. It could be somebody else. So put the key back in the lockbox, and even though the next agent might get very irritated, that's the right thing to do. Put it in the lockbox, let that next agent pull the key out. And finally, as a best practice, leave feedback. Buyers and buyer agents or sellers and sellers agent are very dependent on feedback. One thing though, you can't add your contact information in that. So that is a rule we have had for many years, and that's simply to prevent direct communication between a seller and a showing agent. So please leave the feedback, but exclude any type of contact information. And one more thing I just want to bring up that I didn't put on here that we see happening as well, and that's the question about inspectors. We hear from time to time that a home buyer wants to be present at the inspection, and the buyer, their agent, basically just tell them to go out and meet the inspector by the house. Cannot do that. The inspector is not allowed to bring anybody with them into the home. That's a violation on their end. So please be aware of that as agents. If you want your buyers to be present during the inspection, you as their buyer's agent will have to be there as well. So so those are kind of some of the best practices, and I'll be happy to take any questions when we get to that point.
Alan, I'm gonna ask you one question. What are some of the common complaints that you guys are seeing regarding professionalism at the TMLS?
It is professionalism when it comes to professionalism, it's mostly around showings, agents accessing homes outside of their showing appointments. It's not leaving the home in the same state as it was when they walked in. Those are kind of the ones we see the most. We have heard quite a bit about agents not being sure what to do with the key when a lot of other agents are coming up, and somehow somebody reports these things. So those are kind of the ones we see the most. And then one frustration we hear a lot about is incomplete listings, or listings with very limited data. Agents get frustrated, they get irritated when they have to search too much to get data that otherwise should be in the MLS.
Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, if for those that are in attendance on Zoom, if you want to type some questions in the chat, and then what we'll do is we will have Alan address those once we are done with the presentations. Next on our list, we will have Mr. Pat Circadakis. Pat will talk a little bit about, give us a brief overview of professionalism and ethical standards in regard to our association. Okay, Pat, let me turn this over to you, sir.
Well, one of the things I think we need to do about professionalism, and Jay and I were discussing it earlier, we're responsible for enforcing our standards. And if we're not willing to enforce our standards, then we have no standards. If we let agents do things that we feel are unprofessional and we don't call them to account for it, they'll never change. So we need to take our goal of professionalism seriously and hold ourselves and agents that we interact with to the standards that are required in the Code of Ethics. And there's a couple of practices and stuff that I thought were real important. Just wanted to start off with number one, duties to clients and customers, which says it's our duty to promote the best interest of our clients. Okay, so we start there, and I think that we create lots of issues sometimes that have unintended consequences. We were talking about multiple overlapping appointments. We're talking about deadlines on properties. We're talking about no deadlines on properties. What's the controlling factor there? We also, one of the Code of Ethics says you've got to present all offers within a reasonable period of time after receiving it. What if you have a seller who doesn't want to consider offers with expiration clauses? Do you still have to present that offer even if it comes in before the deadline? Those are all things that we need to talk about and are covered by the Code of Ethics. The other thing, which I think, getting back to one of the things that Alan just said, the lack of information. We have a professional obligation to observe pertinent facts about the property. So even if our sellers are unwilling to make representations about properties, they mark no representation. That doesn't alleviate you of the obligation to disclose things that you know about the property that might have normally shown up in a disclosure. If you know the crawl space is wet, okay, you have to disclose that. If you know that there's a leak in the roof, you have to disclose that. If you know there's other issues with the house that rise to material fact, even if the seller wants to mark no representation, you have an obligation, not only by the Code of Ethics, but by the Real Estate Commission rules and regulations, to disclose the information that you know. It's not enough just to leave it blank. It's not enough to say, oh, the seller said no representation, I don't have to say anything. So you might want to, if there's information about the property that the seller has not been willing to disclose, you might want to ask your broker or your BIC how you should disclose that information to agents who might be showing the property. The other thing is misrepresenting, that one of the other issues that we run into is misrepresenting access or availability of the property. You want to make sure that all agents have the same accessibility to the property as you did. So I think those are some of the major areas, making sure you promote the best interest of your client, make sure that you disclose material facts, and make sure you ensure access to the property is fair to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I have a couple of questions for you, Pat, just because I've taken a point of privilege here. So if an agent, given your experience of being in running our ethical professional standards committee here, if an agent is found to be, if someone files a complaint against an agent with our association because they were being unprofessional or unethical, and they filed a complaint with the association, how is that dealt with?
Well, first of all, you can reach out to our association and ask for the proper forms and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I encourage that you should talk to the other realtor and let them know that you have a problem. Make sure they're aware of it. But there is a form that both either the public or members of our association can get from our association, where you outline the complaint that you want. We're not going to consider any complaint that you're not willing to put in writing. And you're asked to outline what it was and outline what you think were the specific standard of practices that were violated. That comes into the association. The association asks the grievance committee just to look at it on the surface. They don't have access to anything other than, here was the complaint, here's the basic information. Do you think this potentially could rise, if this information is proven correct, to the point of being a professional ethics problem? And if the grievance committee says so, it's a panel is impaneled to hear the complaint and hear from everybody involved in the thing. There's a set of standards, but it starts with being willing to make a written complaint to someone.
So if that realtor is found to be in violation, what might be some of the quote unquote punishment? Do they go report to the commission? How does that work? In a fine or?
Well, there's a wide range of stuff. Some of it deals with, you can certainly require that they attend education as one of the remedies. There are certain issues where they can be fined. If it rises to a serious level, they could actually be suspended from membership, which might impact on their ability then to access the MLS. And if we see that there are, in fact, violations of the license law, we can refer it for further action to the Real Estate Commission.
Okay.
Yeah, this is where we have to be very careful about separating law from rules.
Right.
And a lot of agents get those two things confused. There's what the Real Estate Commission can do. There's what the association can do. And the association and TMLS work together because we have to be part of the association, to be part of NAR, to have access to TMLS.
Okay.
But they're two very separate things. The Real Estate Commission and the ethics panels are not necessarily in the same court.
Okay.
And TMLS has rules that are different. So there's really three sets of rules that we work by: the multiple listing service rules, the Code of Ethics, and then the real estate license law. All three of those things, sometimes they overlap completely, but sometimes there's some things that are in the purview of the Real Estate Commission Sometimes there are things that are within the purview of the TMLS, and there's some things that are within the purview of a professional standards hearing.
And I'm going to argue that sometimes there are things that are rules that put us in questionable ethical situations. And I think we need to talk about that.
Yeah, you want to give an example of that, Jay?
Well, like the rule, we have a skill, care, and diligence
Yeah.
obligation to our clients, right? So when a house is in coming soon status and then we have a buyer that wants to buy it and it's in such a heated market that things are selling in coming soon status, we have a professional obligation to bring skill, care, and diligence to the table. But if we are selling a house we have not seen,
Yeah.
the client has not seen, are we not in some way, in essence, in violation of our ethical standards? And could that client, if the house turns out to have serious issues, could that client not file an ethics complaint that my agent should have protected me?
Yeah. Even if they want to make an offer.
Even if they want to make an offer, because our job is also to explain to them the heated nature of the market
That's
and
true.
what they may have to do in order to secure a house in this market. So the rules that we cannot see it put us in conflict with our obligations to our clients.
Understood. Thank you, Jay, for that. Okay, well, Jay, we're gonna lead right into you.
Okay.
All right, so tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I've been doing this for 26 years. I have been a full-time realtor for 21 years. I just feel like I have been in this Thunderdome, boots on the ground so much in the last couple of years that I've seen some things that appall me. I've seen some things that annoy me. I've seen everything in between. And I just have to chuckle, and Alan, no disrespect to you, but I just have to chuckle at your non-boots on the ground observation about how things are happening in the field, like passing off of the keys to the people waiting outside. Do you really think those people are waiting outside?
No, they're
They're
not.
not waiting outside. They're coming right in the house. You know, so when we go to show a house right now, especially for showing it in the first few hours that the showings are open, we're in that house with 6 to 12 other people on average, all at the same time. So I'm walking around with the key and the lockbox in my hand. Other agents who have appointments at the same time are already in the house with their clients. I don't know them. I don't know their clients. It's a party in the house. And all I'm doing is holding this thing. And what am I going to do? Kick everybody out? Hand them the, say everybody's got to get out because I've got to lock my lockbox because I've got to secure the house. They've got appointments too. We don't have any rules for this. So we're out there literally making it up as we go. And then you guys have a complaint that we have to do it this way. You have to put the key back in the lockbox and pass it off. Well, how can I have that kind of a rule when I'm in the house with 12 other people
Who are authorized to be there.
who are also authorized to be there? So it's your ideals of the way you want things to happen are not reflecting what's actually happening in the field. And this is what we need. We need the rules for what do we do in the field? When I'm in that house with 12 other people, who do I hand that key off to? What do I, if I don't recognize them, and often I don't, how do I know I'm actually handing that key off to a client? Do I ID them? We have no rules for this. Our ethics and our rules are not in compliance.
So Alan, you want to address that right quick?
Yeah, so if you remember at some point during the pandemic here, we actually made a rule so you couldn't have overlapping showings, period, right? And that was a very controversial change to make. And just as many who were happy about it, just as many were very upset about it, because the MLS now interfered with how many showings they could, a seller could have on their property on any given day. So you're right. There are certainly situations, and still, because the market is as crazy as it is, we have the situations you are talking about. But there's so the rule that we have on the books about security of the property, and we actually don't have a direct rule that says you can't hand the key, but I think there might, and I don't know the code of ethics from fully, but there might be something in there as well that will touch on that, right? So we can't, we as an MLS, we have to be very careful, or we have to be with the line. Where's the line between what we can prevent you to do and then also getting in the way of what you are trying to do, right? We can't get too much in the way of you doing your business. And so we have to be careful we don't over-regulate on things. This particular one is a tricky one. It's really a tricky one because
at the very least, Alan, it would be great I've got an appointment to show a property at 12:30 today, if when I get that notice, or if subsequent appointments are scheduled at the same time, that I get notice as a showing agent that Jay Kreller is also going to be showing the property at 12:30, and that Marcia Vaughn from Allen Tate's going to be showing the property at the same time. So at least I know who's supposed to be in the house at the same time I'm going to be in the house.
There is some chance that way of recognition of who we're supposed to be passing off the key to, even if we don't know them personally. Like, oh, that's one of the names on my list who's showing it simultaneously. That would be helpful. But that might cross the line of, now we're giving away number of showing information in that slot to the folks. You know, I get that it's a balance, but what I'm saying is we need to know what is the appropriate thing to do in the situation. What is appropriate for me to do? What is it appropriate for me to do when I'm in a house? There are multiple other agents and buyers in the house. What should I be doing to hand off that key?
Well, for one, again,
and also I think maybe we need to talk about what is the protocol. I was in a house recently showing property. We all had there were 3 agents with each of us had a buyer, two buyers with us. In this case, all couples. And so that meant there were going to be a total of 9 people in a house that was 1,200 square feet, all at the same time. You know, what's the protocol? And we talked outside as we were getting ready for the group before us to leave, to say, okay, we're going to start in the master bedroom. Another couple says, well, we'll start in the kitchen. Another one said, well, we'll start in the living room. And we literally agreed among ourselves how we were going to rotate through the property, so there'd be at least some privacy and some ability to look at the property without having a crowd. But it's complicated, and we need to probably set up some rules for how you're supposed to do this.
It's very complicated, because what is the rule?
Yeah, I guess
is
a lot of unexpectancies with this market the way that it is. And I know that we're all trying to work together to make sure we have some level of professionalism and to work together. And so we appreciate your comment. But give some more. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to suggest is, you know, so here we are in a new type of market, and we don't have the rules yet to deal with this, because our rules deal with the normal market. In a normal market, these rules make perfect sense, but this is not a normal market. And so we have to adapt a little bit faster, and we need some protocols, and we need some ideas out there as to what we're supposed to be doing in the field to maintain our integrity, to maintain our value to our clients.
Gotcha.
You know, the other thing that I'm super concerned about is the showings, the coming soon status. I know for a fact agents are allowing showings and coming soon. I know for a fact this is happening. But if I report it, now I'm tarnishing my relationship with a client. I mean, I'm with another agent that I will probably see down the road again in another transaction. How do I win in that scenario if I'm poisoning the well with another agent because I've reported them, because I know that they've allowed another agent to see the property under the wink, wink, nod, nod, go check out my staging, you know, or whatever they're doing to allow that agent to see that property in the coming soon status.
Oh, you mean when they say, well, the painter's going to be in the house painting it on Wednesday, and if you wanted to go by and take a look.
Exactly right. It's happening all the time. It's happening everywhere. You've seen it too. You know this.
You're kidding.
You know, this is reality. So we have to figure out how we're dealing with reality, not just the theoretical parts. And so, you know, is there any safeguard for, you know, keeping the showings and coming soon not happening?
Well, once again,
why is coming soon 30 days in a market as hot as this? Why do we need 30 days possible of coming soon? We're inviting the corruption.
It is a clear violation of the Code of Ethics to provide access at other than what was available to everybody else in the MLS. And the only way we're going to stop it, and no one wants to be the bad guy, no one wants to be the party, you know, the person who ruins the party. You got to be willing to step up and hold other agents accountable for that action. And it's not the agent who's looking at the property who's breaking the rule. It's the listing agent who's breaking the rule by allowing anybody to have access to that property on some other basis than what they've put out to the public. We've got to be willing to step up and say, hey, this is not right. This was not right to my buyer client. It was potentially not even right to that seller client who might have gotten an offer on a property during a coming soon stage, which might have made them feel real good. Oh man, we've got this great offer. It's over list price, and yeah, let's go ahead and accept it. When who knows how many additional offers they could have gotten, or better terms that they would have gotten if it had waited until it came on the market. So we as agents, number one, need to make sure that we're protecting that interest. Number two, if we're going to allow a seller to accept a property, an offer on a property in an off-market status where other agents could not see it, we need to be very sure that we clearly explain to them what they potentially are losing out by accepting an offer at that point, or we're not doing our jobs as listing agents. We're not representing the best interest of our client by doing that. You know, we have to be willing to hold each other accountable. And the only way to do that is to file a complaint. Now, maybe the first step is, you know what, that was wrong. I'm going to have my BIC contact that BIC and explain what happened. Maybe, you know, maybe if we just bring it to their attention, they won't do it. But you still have the last resort of filing the complaint, a professional ethics complaint, if not. And there's a couple of other areas where we're getting into some real fast areas, and kind of like to ask Jay what she's experienced. You're showing a property. There's obviously multiple showings on the property. It's a very hot property. The agent indicates there's going to be a deadline of Monday. It's now Saturday. And so you don't rush back to your office right away to write an offer. And next thing you know, you get a note from the agent, text or a notification through showing time. They accepted an offer on Saturday, even though they had indicated there was going to be a deadline of Monday or Sunday afternoon, whatever it is. Does that happen to you? And what do you think should happen?
Oh, has it happened to me? It's probably one of the more frustrating parts of the business. We, as listing agents, when we're on the listing side of it, we have to do a much better job of explaining to our sellers that, yes, you may get a tremendous offer in the coming soon status. There's no guarantee that that's your best offer. The best chance you have of getting your best offer is letting the market see your property. Let it play out the way it is, because let me tell you, that person who's written that drop dead gorgeous offer that you're tempted to take is probably not going away in 48 hours if they're really serious. So let's honor our deadline. Let's give everybody a chance to see it. But you've got to have that conversation ahead of the game with your seller. This can't be an in the moment conversation you have with the seller, because if it's an in the moment conversation you're having with your seller's already hopped up. I've got the offer in hand. This is money in hand. This is money in the bank. And you're telling me to not take it. And if they haven't been prepared for that scenario, you're not going to necessarily be successful trying to talk them down if you think that they can do better, because you've gotten feedback from 6 other people that they're bringing you offers. You haven't seen them. You've got to get control of the situation as a listing agent. Prepare your seller ahead of time. And quite frankly, if you put a deadline out there and your seller doesn't adhere to that deadline, you're tarnishing your own reputation with other agents. There are agents that I will never trust again, because impassioned plea in the notes of the MLS saying, please respect our deadline, no expirations, no anything, you know, the seller will look unfavorably upon such a thing if you bring it to us. 3 hours later, oh, nope, we've accepted an offer. Yeah, I've got your picture on my dartboard, dude. You know, this is not okay. This is not okay. If I'm respecting what you're telling me, show me some respect too. So this is to the listing agents on that front.
Well, I will say to you that from an educational standpoint, those things are being addressed in both the BIC up and the Gen up. And the scenario would be, what would the commission say if, you know, if there was a complaint regarding office exclusive showings, or there was a complaint regarding listing deadlines. So those things the commission they are aware of it, and they are trying to address it in this year's updates.
Yeah. At the very least, I don't know and I'll throw out a thought for Alan here as well. At the very least, I don't know of a single situation where time is so short that you cannot let the other agents know who showed the property, expressed an interest. Hey, there's an offer that's very attractive that my seller is considering. We might be making a decision by 2 o'clock this afternoon. If you are interested, please submit an offer in writing prior to that time.
And because things are happening so quickly, we cannot have this information communicated in a mass email. So we need a way to mass text all the showing agents so that while they're in the field, because this has happened to me twice while I was in the house for my showings, getting the, just checking my email randomly that, hey, we've accepted an offer. I need that information by text if they're going to accept an offer for me to do anything about it in a timely fashion. At least be able to communicate my terms.
Yeah, so
We'd
right
like
now,
for, hopefully showing time or whatever to be able to give us, be able to send notification by text to everybody at one time, rather than just by email. That would really speed up that process in a market that's relatively fast, because I'll see a text long before I'll see an email.
Exactly. In the field, we'll always see the text first. Often I won't see the email until I'm back at my desk.
yeah, and I will definitely bring that back as a suggestion, and it seems very reasonable. Can you guys hear me?
Question. So given all of these things that we deal with in the field, what would be the best way to help buyers through this market? What are some of the practices that you guys have seen to help these buyers navigate this interesting market?
The most important thing that I do when I'm taking on a new buyer is, in addition to setting up a search for them and getting them prepared and telling them how quickly we're going to have to move, is I always do what I call a historical search. For the same parameters that I'm setting up their active search, I go back 6 months and say, this is what happened in the last 6 months. We're not going to have time to educate you in real time as to what's going on, but let me show you that in the last 6 months, meeting your criteria, these are the houses that came on the market. This is how quickly they sold. This is what they sold for, list price to sale price on average. That little bit of preparation with the buyers is proving to be absolute gold, because they're coming in almost as though they've got that 6 months of experience. And so they're being a little more aggressive right out of the gate and a little more successful out of the gate. So that's the best tip I have, is look backwards, educate your buyers as to how quickly this market is moving, and get them prepared to do the same thing right out of the gate.
Yeah. The other thing, sort of tying into that, and I know TMLS is looking at this, but I'd love to see, as part of the reported closed transaction, how much was the due diligence in the transaction, just so we'll know what the market's out there. So we've got some data to share with buyers. I think that would be real helpful. I honestly think that makes it sort of tough. The other thing that I think we owe a duty to our buyers at is to let them know that we don't have a crystal ball. Every property I have put under contract in the last 90 days has sold for much more than the current comps say it's worth. Okay. And you need to make sure your buyers understand, okay, that they're buying on the future. Yes, this year prices have gone up 18%, and that means that probably in, over the next year they might go up X amount. I don't have any way of guaranteeing that to you, so you need to be aware of that. And I think there's a lot of people out there that aren't necessarily making sure that they're communicating, oh yeah, well, it's on the market for $750, so let's offer $850 because that's what it's going to take to get it. Well, you know what, you need to make sure you say to them, part of the making sure they've got the detailed knowledge. You saw what was happening in the market, what Jay was talking about. Here's what we're projecting might happen. We don't know right now. I can't prove to you that the comps on this property will match the price that you're going to pay. Think it will, but don't have any way of knowing that. I think we need to make sure that we're honest with our buyers in setting their expectation about what the value is.
Yeah, I've seen so many agents out there talking about, well, things are selling 10 to 20% over list, but they're not taking into account that their comps are now reflecting that 10 to 20% increase from the last 6 months. So yeah, if you just tell your buyer, look, hey, 10 to 20% over list, that's what you have to do, then we're going to have this exponential appreciation and creating the bubble that we may not have intended, because it is based on a 20% increase from, 6 months prior. We have to be careful about that. And we have to make sure the buyers are going in eyes wide open that this is probably what's happening. I can't I know you want this house. This is what you may have to do to get it, but I can't promise you this is going to hold up. That's key. That's important.
Yeah, I also think one of the big issues that we face, both from a professional standard standpoint and boots on the ground, most of the offers I'm writing now have little or no due diligence period. Most of the offers I'm writing are as is, look very strongly to at the disclosure that the seller has. I'm trying on all my listings to get my sellers to go ahead and do a pre-marketing inspection, which we make available so that a buyer's got at least a wide open look at what's wrong with the property or what might potentially be wrong with the property. So there's a lot of pressure on buyers to make decisions about stuff that is unknown, unknown condition of the property, unknown value of the property. We need to be very careful that we're educating as well as we can.
And that brings us right back to, where is the skill, care, and diligence on the buyer's agents when they haven't even seen the house?
Yeah, that's something that we, in this market, we have to keep looking at.
I think we're going to get burned by this a lot, especially as people have this, $100, $200, $300,000 in due diligence on the line, because that's what they've had to do. We haven't seen the house. They haven't seen the house. Then there's something seriously wrong with the house and they're looking at us. I think the real estate commission is going to get inundated as things move forward with these complaints, especially if we keep allowing things, if we keep allowing the coming soon as a status and we keep selling things sight unseen.
And I want
Can I
to
ask a
get back
question?
to one of the things that I was started off with. Standard of practice 2-1, realtors shall be obligated to discover and disclose adverse factors reasonably apparent to somebody with their expertise.
Right.
If you're not letting people know about what you've seen on the property as a listing agent, even if your seller is not willing to make that representation, you're responsible. Okay. And if you've got a buyer who put up $50,000 or $100,000 due diligence, and then they find out something that was wrong with the property, and
That was readily apparent.
That was readily apparent to you as the listing agent, that you would have known as doing part of a reasonable due diligence and listing the property, you're going to have them coming after you for that due diligence money. The seller might be off the hook, but you're not off the hook. You need to be aware of that. You need to do a better job of presenting information and making sure that the things that you know about the property are presented.
Absolutely. I know we're going to be wrapping up soon, and I just have got to bring up my biggest pet peeve in showing houses right now. If you are requiring people to remove their shoes, and I understand that, provide a bench. People, provide a bench. Not everybody is 24 years old and wearing, slip-on shoes. Please, 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 if you're going to require people to remove their shoes, and I understand, especially in inclement weather, that's a good idea. Please provide a place for people to sit and remove their shoes before somebody gets hurt. And I'm being totally serious now. I work with senior clients. It's very disturbing to watch them sometimes try and remove their shoes with nothing to sit on.
So, I'd like to go ahead and just wrap it up. From a professional standards standpoint, we're responsible for enforcing the professionalism of the agents that we work with. If we have a high standard and we don't enforce it, then we don't have a high standard. It's not enough, well, I did it right. You've got to make sure that other agents are doing it right. And the only way to do that is to hold them accountable, be willing to step up and say that was not the right way to do that. Here's a better way. And if they're not willing to address the issue, you need to go ahead and take the steps to report them either to TMLS, to your local association of realtors, to the real estate commission if it rises to that standard. We're responsible for the professionalism of our industry. Let's do better at doing that.
Yeah, and if
All
I
right,
could
well,
just,
we appreciate the participation of Alan and Jay and Pat. Might there be any questions at this point in time? And Alan, did you have anything that you wanted to say with regard to some of the feedback that was given?
yeah, and I don't know, can you guys hear me now? Because I don't think you could hear me before. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
we can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, so I think to one of the things Pat said earlier and a couple of times is that when you see something that is not right, you got to report it. From an MLS point of view, there are so many things that we can't check. We can check data a lot of times, but we are not out following agents around to see if they are accessing homes when they're not supposed to. Some of it we can catch with lockbox access and stuff like that, but you have to report it. One of the advantages of reporting something to the MLS is that the reporting agent is anonymous. So the other agent will never know who reported them. Sometimes they will have a pretty good idea about it, but you're actually anonymous when you report it. And it's easy to report things to the MLS. We have a button in Paragon, or it's just a simple email, and then we take action. We reach out to the listing agent if it's a listing agent that's the problem, or the buyer's agent, and we have a serious conversation with them. And especially when we talk about showings or allowing showings when it's incoming soon. It's black or white. We don't waive those. If there's a fine, we don't waive it. And they're fairly steep. So we do take that extremely serious. So I totally agree with Pat. You have to report it. If you don't report it, we can't act on it. Also, Pat, just to what you said before about the due diligence, yes, that is something we are looking into, is see if that's data we can capture. And then finally, I think there's a lot of questions about coming soon and whether coming soon should be there or not. That has been discussed many times, and we keep getting back to the same thing, and that is, yes, there's a need for coming soon in our market. It's a useful thing for agents to use. The most recent conversation we had about this, the one question that came up is the issue coming soon, or is the issue the really high due diligence fees that are being paid? If we brought the due diligence fee back to where it used to be, would we then still have this problem? And I think for the most answers I've heard on this is that probably not. We would probably be fine if the due diligence were at a reasonable level. But I can tell you from an MLS point of view, we continually monitor the behavior that we see around this, also including coming soon. If we can just have one more point about coming soon, because we have done extensive research on this. We hear about agents or listing agents, they put it in coming soon and then they let some people see it. One of the concerns that we had was, are they trying to sell it without cooperating with other brokers? And numbers show that there's a higher degree of cooperation when a listing starts out in coming soon. To me, that makes sense. To some people, that's a surprise. But we actually do see a higher degree of cooperation between brokers, between offices, when the listing is in coming soon. Now, there are a lot more listings closing out with 0 days on market when they have started as coming soon, which also makes sense in the way the market is right now.
I do just want to add into that, Alan, that I think it's a little naive to think that all of this coming soon is happening without anyone actually seeing the property. And I think you guys need to find a way to investigate some of these coming soons and seeing if agents were given an unfair advantage in an access to the property during that status.
So I agree with you. We don't think that I will say we are not naive to think that showings do not occur. We just do not have the ability to go out. We really can't go out and follow agents around. And because of the market is right now, there are plenty of properties that are being sold or where offers are produced sight unseen. And we don't have the resources for that. That's where we have to rely on you guys. So when you hear about this, you have to let us know. Now, if there's no proof of it, it makes it difficult. But sometimes just a call from us saying, we are hearing reports that you have had this activity. Sometimes that can be enough. Other times agents simply do not care. And those are hard to deal with in the end anyway. But
So,
the
so
MLS
Alan, and what I'm hearing from you is that if we suspect this has happened,
Mhm.
we can call you or report it through the portal, and you guys will at least call out and investigate?
we will reach out to the showing or to the listing agent and say, this is being reported. We can also go in, if it's a century lock lockbox that's on the door, we can see who opened who got access to the key. And if it's during a time where the listing was in a coming soon status, that's a violation. Then it gets black and white. We can see you opened the lockbox, the listing wasn't coming soon. Ergo, that's a violation. So yeah, always reach out to us. And if all we can do is give the listing agent a call to let them know that people are watching you, people are paying attention to what you're doing. If that's all we can do, that has some value too. Obviously, we do not fine unless we are 100% certain that a violation took place.
Alan, Jay, Pat, we thank you so much for your participation today. We've gone a little bit beyond the schedule, but we certainly appreciate you guys' willingness to participate in this panel. Hopefully, to those that are listening, there'll be some great information, great value as to how we're to navigate this interesting market that we're in. Thank you guys so much for your participation, and please, please enjoy your day.
Thanks for having us, Keith.
Thanks.
Thank you.